Automaticity isn't a sudden leap, but rather a gradual progression. Initially, a new habit requires significant mental energy and focus. With each repetition, it becomes slightly easier, requiring less conscious attention. Eventually, after enough practice, the behavior crosses what we might call the habit line, the point at which it becomes more automatic than conscious. This progression challenges a common misconception about habit formation, the idea that it takes a specific number of days to form a new habit. You've probably heard that it takes 21 days or 30 days to form a habit. In reality, the time it takes is far less important than the number of repetitions. A habit performed twice in 30 days is far less likely to stick than one performed 60 times in the same period. The focus on time rather than frequency is a fundamental misunderstanding of how our brains work. Our neural pathways don't care about the passage of time, they care about the number of times a circuit is activated. This is why consistency is so crucial in habit formation. It's not about perfect streaks or arbitrary timelines, but about accumulating repetitions. Understanding this can be incredibly liberating. It shifts our focus from an often arbitrary deadline to the process itself. Instead of getting discouraged if we haven't mastered a habit in 21 days, we can celebrate each repetition as a step towards rewiring our brains. This insight leads us to a crucial principle in habit formation, the law of least effort. This law, deeply ingrained in human nature, states that when faced with similar options, we will naturally gravitate towards the one that requires the least amount of work. Far from being a character flaw, this tendency towards efficiency is a smart evolutionary strategy. Consider the fascinating example of how the shape of continents influenced the spread of agriculture. Crops spread more quickly across Europe and Asia than they did in the Americas, not because of any difference in the farmers' abilities or motivations, but simply because it was easier. The east-west orientation of Eurasia meant that crops could be transported to areas with similar climates more easily than in the north-south oriented Americas, where dramatic climate changes posed significant challenges. This principle of choosing the path of least resistance applies just as much to our personal habits as it does to global agricultural patterns. When we're trying to form a new habit, we're much more likely to succeed if we make it as easy as possible to perform. This isn't laziness, it's working with our brain's natural tendencies rather than against them. For instance, if you're trying to start a habit of daily exercise, you're more likely to succeed with a modest goal of 1 push-up a day than with an ambitious plan of 100 push-ups. The energy barrier to doing 1 push-up is so low that it's hard to find an excuse not to do it. And once you've started, it's often easier to do a few more. On the other hand, the prospect of doing 100 push-ups can be so daunting that you're more likely to skip it entirely on days when you're tired or busy. This principle of making habits as easy as possible to start is incredibly powerful. It's not about lowering your standards or giving up on ambitious goals. Rather, it's about understanding that the hardest part of any habit is often just getting started. By lowering the initial energy requirement, you make it much more likely that you'll take that crucial first step. Moreover, starting small doesn't mean staying small. Once a habit is established, it can be gradually expanded. That 1 push-up can grow into a full workout routine over time. The key is to make the habit so easy at first that you can't say no. Another powerful strategy in habit formation is environment design. Our surroundings play a much larger role in our behavior than we often realize. By structuring our environment to make good habits easy and bad habits difficult, we can significantly increase our chances of success. For example, if you want to eat healthier, simply placing fruit in a visible, easily accessible place and hiding less healthy snacks can make a big difference. If you want to read more, leaving a book on your bedside table and charging your phone in another room can help. These small environmental tweaks reduce the friction for good habits and increase it for less desirable ones. It's also worth considering the role of technology in habit formation. While often blamed for creating bad habits, technology can be a powerful tool for building good ones when used mindfully. Apps that track habits, send reminders, or gamify the process can provide helpful external cues and motivation. However, it's important to remember that these are tools to support the fundamental process of repetition and ease, not replacements for it. As we strive to form new habits, it's crucial to maintain a balance between challenge and ease. While we want to make habits as easy as possible to start, we also need to ensure they remain engaging and meaningful. A habit that's too easy might not provide the sense of accomplishment or progress that keeps us motivated in the long term. This is where the concept of just manageable difficulty comes in. The idea is to set the bar just high enough to be challenging, but not so high that it becomes discouraging. This sweet spot will vary from person to person and may change over time as you progress. The key is to continually adjust, always staying just at the edge of your comfort zone. It's also important to remember that habit formation is not a linear process. There will be setbacks, days when the habit feels harder than usual, or times when progress seems to plateau. This is normal and doesn't indicate failure. In fact, these challenges are often where the most significant growth occurs. Each time you push through resistance, you're strengthening your habit even more than on the easy days. Patience and self-compassion are crucial throughout this process. Lasting change takes time, and beating yourself up over slip-ups or slow progress is counterproductive. Instead, view each attempt at your habit, successful or not, as valuable data. What made it easier on some days? What made it harder on others? This information can help you refine your approach and make your habit even more robust. Remember, too, that habits don't exist in isolation. They're part of the broader context of your life, interacting with your other behaviors, your environment, and your overall goals. Sometimes, struggling with a particular habit might be a sign that it's not aligned with your broader life direction. It's okay to reassess and adjust your habits as your life and priorities evolve. In conclusion, the key to successful habit formation lies in understanding and working with our brain's natural tendencies. By focusing on consistent repetition rather than arbitrary timelines, making habits as easy as possible to start, designing our environment to support our goals, and maintaining a balance between challenge and achievability, we can effectively rewire our brains and transform our behaviors. The process of habit formation is a powerful tool for personal growth and transformation. It allows us to automate positive behaviors, freeing up mental energy for other tasks and gradually steering our lives in the direction we choose. While it requires patience and persistence, the compounding effects of good habits over time can lead to remarkable changes. As you embark on your own habit formation journey, remember that you're not just trying to change your behavior, you're literally reshaping your brain. Each repetition, no matter how small, is a step towards rewiring your neural pathways. Celebrate these small victories, learn from the setbacks, and trust in the process. With time and consistent effort, you have the power to transform not just your habits, but your entire life. Habits, those seemingly innocuous patterns of behavior, have an outsized impact on our lives. They shape our days, influence our decisions, and ultimately determine the trajectory of our personal and professional journeys. Yet, paradoxically, many of our most pervasive habits require surprisingly little motivation to maintain. Consider how effortlessly we reach for our phones to scroll through social media, check our emails, or binge-watch television shows. These activities consume vast swaths of our time precisely because they demand so little from us. Their convenience is their power. This observation leads us to a crucial insight: every habit, at its core, is an obstacle between us and our desired outcome. When we diet, we're not truly after the act of restricting our food intake, we're seeking the health and appearance benefits that come with it. Meditation isn't about sitting still, it's about achieving a state of calm and mental clarity. Journaling isn't the end goal, clear thinking is. Understanding this distinction is vital because it highlights the friction that exists between our current state and our aspirations. The more difficult a habit is to maintain, the more friction it introduces into our lives. This is why making our positive habits as effortless as possible is crucial for long-term success. By reducing the barriers to entry, we increase the likelihood of following through, even on days when our motivation wanes. It's about creating a path of least resistance towards our goals. However, this emphasis on ease might seem at odds with human achievement. After all, history is replete with examples of individuals accomplishing incredibly challenging feats. From raising children to building businesses to scaling the world's highest peaks, humans have demonstrated time and again their capacity for overcoming immense obstacles. How do we reconcile this with the idea that we're fundamentally lazy creatures? The answer lies in understanding the ebb and flow of human motivation. While we are indeed capable of Herculean efforts, our drive to tackle difficult tasks fluctuates. Some days we feel invincible, ready to take on the world. Other days, the simplest tasks feel insurmountable. It's on these challenging days that having systems and environments optimized for our success becomes crucial. By minimizing friction in our lives, we make it easier for our most motivated, capable selves to emerge and tackle the inevitable challenges life throws our way. This doesn't mean we should only pursue easy tasks. Rather, it suggests that we should strive to make the initial steps of important long-term habits as frictionless as possible. By doing so, we set ourselves up for success in the moments when our willpower is at its lowest. To illustrate this concept, imagine a garden hose with a kink in it. Water can still flow, but it's severely restricted. To increase the flow, you have two options. You can try to force more water through by cranking up the pressure, or you can simply remove the kink. Trying to boost your motivation to stick with a difficult habit is akin to forcing water through a kinked hose. It's possible, but it requires significant effort and creates unnecessary tension. Making your habits simpler and easier, on the other hand, is like straightening out the hose. You're not fighting against resistance, you're eliminating it altogether. One of the most effective strategies for reducing friction in our habits is through thoughtful environment design. This goes beyond simply making cues for our habits more obvious. It involves optimizing our surroundings to make the actions themselves easier to perform. For instance, when choosing where to practice a new habit, it's wise to select a location that's already part of your daily routine. If you're trying to establish a gym habit, choosing a facility that's on your way to work makes it far more likely you'll stop in regularly. It doesn't feel like you're going out of your way because it fits seamlessly into your existing pattern. This principle extends to our homes and workspaces as well. Too often, we attempt to build habits in high-friction environments. We try to adhere to strict diets while dining out with friends, write books in chaotic households, or focus on important work while surrounded by digital distractions. By identifying and eliminating these points of friction, we can dramatically increase our chances of success. The power of reducing friction is well illustrated by the transformation of Japanese manufacturing in the 1970s. Companies embraced the concept of lean production, meticulously examining every aspect of their processes to eliminate waste. This extended to redesigning workspaces so that employees could access tools without unnecessary twisting or turning. The results were remarkable. Japanese factories became more efficient, and their products more reliable than their American counterparts. By 1979, American workers needed 3 times as long to assemble television sets compared to their Japanese counterparts. This strategy of addition by subtraction has profound implications beyond manufacturing. In our personal lives, removing obstacles that drain our time and energy allows us to achieve more with less effort. It's why decluttering can feel so liberating. We're not just organizing our space, we're lightening the cognitive load our environment places on us. The most habit-forming products and services in our modern world excel at eliminating friction from our lives. Meal delivery services remove the need for grocery shopping. Dating apps simplify social introductions. Ride-sharing services make getting across town effortless. Each of these innovations automates, eliminates, or simplifies steps in processes that were once more cumbersome. Successful companies apply this principle rigorously to their product design. They reduce form fields, minimize account creation steps, and provide clear, concise instructions. Even small reductions in friction can have significant impacts. When the British government wanted to increase tax collection rates, they made a simple change. Instead of sending citizens to a web page where they could download a tax form, they provided a direct link to the form itself. This minor adjustment increased response rates from 19.2% to 23.4%, translating to millions in additional tax revenue. The key takeaway is clear: create an environment where doing the right thing is as easy as possible. Much of the challenge in building better habits comes down to finding ways to reduce the friction associated with positive behaviors while increasing the friction associated with negative ones. One intriguing approach to this is the concept of resetting the room as practiced by Oswald Knuckles, an IT developer from Mississippi. After finishing an activity, Knuckles takes a moment to prepare the space for its next use. After watching TV, he returns the remote to its designated spot, arranges the pillows and folds the blanket. When leaving his car, he disposes of any trash. While waiting for the shower to warm up, he quickly wipes down the toilet. This practice serves a dual purpose. It's not just about cleaning up after the last action, but about reducing friction for the next one. By resetting each space to its optimal state, Knuckles is essentially laying out a welcome mat for his future self. He's making it easier to engage in positive behaviors by ensuring that the environment is always primed and ready. This approach can be applied broadly across various aspects of our lives. For instance, preparing your workout clothes the night before reduces the friction of getting ready for exercise in the morning. Setting out your writing materials or opening your document editor before bed makes it easier to start writing first thing in the day. Clearing your desk at the end of each workday sets the stage for a productive start the next morning. The beauty of this strategy is its simplicity and scalability. Small actions consistently applied can dramatically reshape our environment and, by extension, our behavior. It's a practical application of the idea that our physical space both reflects and influences our mental state. Moreover, the act of resetting our environment can itself become a rewarding habit. It provides a sense of closure to activities, creates a tangible sense of accomplishment, and fosters a mindset of continuous improvement. Over time, this practice can lead to a more organized, intentional way of living that extends far beyond the physical spaces we inhabit. In conclusion, the path to lasting habit change is often more about smart engineering than brute force willpower. By understanding the role of friction in our behaviors, optimizing our environments, and consistently preparing for future actions, we can make significant strides towards our goals with less struggle and more sustainability. This approach acknowledges our human tendencies towards the path of least resistance while harnessing that same tendency to work in our favor.
As we navigate the complexities of modern life, with its myriad distractions and competing priorities, these strategies offer a roadmap for reclaiming our time and energy. They remind us that often, the most profound changes come not from grandiose gestures, but from thoughtful adjustments to our daily routines and surroundings. By making our positive habits more convenient and our negative habits less so, we create an environment that naturally nudges us towards our best selves. Ultimately, this perspective invites us to view our habits not as battles to be won through sheer force of will, but as opportunities for intelligent design. It encourages us to be architects of our own behavior, crafting spaces and routines that align with our deepest aspirations. In doing so, we not only increase our chances of success, but also reduce the mental and emotional toll of constant self-regulation. As we move forward, let's challenge ourselves to look at our habits through this lens of friction and flow. Where can we straighten the hose in our lives? How can we reset our rooms, both literally and figuratively, to prime ourselves for success? By asking these questions and acting on the answers, we open up new possibilities for growth, achievement, and fulfillment. The journey of self-improvement need not be a constant uphill battle. With the right approach, it can be a thoughtfully designed path of gradual, sustainable progress. In the intricate tapestry of human behavior, habits stand out as the threads that weave our daily lives together. These automatic routines, often performed with little conscious thought, shape our experiences and outcomes in profound ways. Understanding the power of habits and learning to harness them effectively can be transformative, leading to increased productivity, better health, and greater overall satisfaction in life. Consider the case of Twyla Tharp, a renowned dancer and choreographer whose success is inextricably linked to her daily rituals. Each morning, without fail, Tharp begins her day by hailing a cab to take her to the gym. This simple act might seem insignificant at first glance, but it serves as the cornerstone of her entire routine. By habitualizing this small action, Tharp has effectively removed any opportunity for hesitation or second-guessing. The moment she steps into the cab, the rest of her morning unfolds almost automatically. This example beautifully illustrates a fundamental principle of habit formation: the power of small, consistent actions. By focusing on the initial step in this case, hailing a cab, Tharp has created a trigger that sets her entire morning routine in motion. The gym workout that follows becomes an inevitable consequence rather than a decision to be made anew each day. The influence of habits on our daily lives is staggering. Research suggests that between 40 to 50% of our actions on any given day are habitual. However, this statistic, impressive as it is, actually understates the true impact of habits on our behavior. Habits don't just account for a large portion of our actions, they also shape the conscious decisions that follow them. Think of habits as the on-ramps to a highway. Once you've merged onto that road, your direction and speed are largely determined. In the same way, our habits often set us on a path that influences our subsequent choices and actions. This is why we might find ourselves sitting through a movie we're not enjoying, continuing to snack well past the point of fullness, or losing track of time on our smartphones. The initial habitual action, turning on the TV, reaching for a snack, or picking up the phone, creates a momentum that's difficult to resist. This cascading effect of habits highlights their true power. While a single habit might only take a few seconds to perform, its influence can extend far beyond that brief moment. A morning habit of meditation, for instance, might only take 10 minutes, but it can set the tone for a calmer, more focused day. Conversely, a habit of checking social media first thing in the morning might lead to hours of distraction and reduced productivity. Understanding this principle allows us to leverage the power of habits to our advantage. By carefully choosing and cultivating positive habits, we can create a domino effect of beneficial behaviors throughout our day. This is where the concept of decisive moments comes into play. Decisive moments are those brief instances where we make choices that have an outsized impact on the course of our day. These are the forks in the road, the points where we decide between actions that align with our goals and those that don't. It's the moment when we choose between cooking a healthy meal or ordering takeout, between going for a run or watching another episode of our favorite show, between starting our work or procrastinating for just 5 more minutes. These moments might seem small and insignificant in isolation, but they stack up over the course of a day, week, month, and year to create vastly different outcomes. A single decision to go to the gym might not make much difference, but when that decision is made consistently over months and years, the cumulative effect is transformative. The power of these decisive moments lies in their ability to set us on different paths. Once we've made the initial choice to put on our running shoes, to open our textbook, to start preparing a healthy meal, the subsequent actions become much easier. It's as if we've created a groove for our behavior to follow, and staying in that groove requires less effort than veering off course. This insight provides us with a powerful strategy for behavior change. Instead of trying to overhaul our entire day at once, we can focus on identifying and optimizing these decisive moments. By creating habits that make the right choice the easy choice at these critical junctures, we can dramatically improve our odds of following through on our intentions. One effective way to do this is through environmental design. By structuring our surroundings to support our desired habits, we can reduce the friction associated with positive behaviors and increase the friction associated with negative ones. This approach recognizes that willpower is a finite resource, and that it's far more effective to change our environment than to rely solely on self-control. For instance, if you want to eat healthier, you might prep fruits and vegetables in advance and keep them easily accessible in your refrigerator. This simple act of preparation makes it more likely that you'll reach for these healthy options when you're hungry. Conversely, you might store less healthy snacks in hard-to-reach places or avoid buying them altogether, increasing the effort required to indulge in them. The same principle can be applied to other areas of life. If you want to read more, keep books visible and within easy reach in your living space. If you want to exercise more consistently, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to reduce your social media usage, remove the apps from your phone or use website blockers on your computer. These environmental tweaks might seem small, but they can have a profound impact on our behavior. By making the desired action the path of least resistance, we harness our natural tendency to gravitate towards easier options. This strategy aligns our environment with our intentions, making it more likely that we'll follow through on our goals, even when our motivation wavers. Another powerful technique for habit formation is the 2-minute rule. This rule suggests that when you're trying to establish a new habit, you should scale it down to an action that takes 2 minutes or less to complete. The idea is to make the habit so easy that you can't say no to it. For example, if your goal is to read more, your 2-minute habit might be to read 1 page each day. If you want to start a journaling practice, commit to writing for just 2 minutes. If you're trying to establish a meditation habit, begin with just 2 minutes of mindful breathing. The beauty of this approach is twofold. First, it makes the habit so easy that you're likely to follow through even on days when you're tired or unmotivated. Second, it gets you over the often challenging hurdle of simply starting. Once you've begun the activity, you'll often find that you continue beyond the 2-minute mark. This strategy recognizes that consistency is more important than intensity when it comes to habit formation. It's better to meditate for 2 minutes every day than to do an hour-long session once a week. The regular repetition of the behavior, no matter how small, helps to solidify the neural pathways associated with the habit, making it increasingly automatic over time. Moreover, the 2-minute rule allows for gradual progression. As the initial 2-minute action becomes habitual, you can slowly expand the duration or complexity of the habit. What starts as 2 minutes of reading might grow into 30 minutes or an hour. A 2-minute journaling habit might evolve into a rich daily writing practice. The key is to focus on establishing the habit loop, the cue, the routine, and the reward rather than on achieving a particular outcome. By making the habit easy to start and consistently repeatable, you create a foundation upon which more substantial behavior change can be built. It's also worth noting that the inverse of this principle can be used to break undesirable habits. If you want to reduce a negative behavior, you can increase the friction associated with it. For instance, if you find yourself watching too much television, you might unplug the TV after each use and store the remote in a drawer. This small increase in effort can be enough to break the automatic nature of the habit and give you a moment to reconsider your choice. Ultimately, the goal is to create an environment and a set of habits that make positive behaviors easy and negative behaviors difficult. This approach recognizes that our willpower is limited and that sustained behavior change is more likely to come from changing our surroundings than from sheer force of will. As we navigate the complexities of modern life with its myriad distractions and competing priorities, understanding and leveraging the power of habits becomes increasingly crucial. By focusing on the small, everyday choices that shape our behavior, we can gradually steer ourselves towards the lives we aspire to lead. This perspective invites us to view our daily routines not as a series of inconsequential actions, but as opportunities to align our behavior with our goals. Every habit, no matter how small, is a vote for the type of person we want to become. When we choose to read a page instead of scrolling through social media, when we opt for a healthy snack instead of junk food, when we decide to meditate for 2 minutes instead of immediately checking our emails, we are casting votes for our ideal selves. The cumulative effect of these small choices can be truly transformative. Over time, these habits shape not just our actions, but our identities. We become readers, healthy eaters, mindful individuals not through single, heroic efforts, but through the consistent repetition of small, positive actions. Moreover, this approach to behavior change is inherently empowering. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the magnitude of our goals, we can focus on taking small, manageable steps in the right direction. We recognize that every day presents us with numerous opportunities to make choices that align with our aspirations. As we become more attuned to the decisive moments in our days, we can approach them with greater intentionality. We can design our environments and routines to support our goals, making it easier to make positive choices even when our motivation wavers. We can leverage the power of small habits to create momentum towards larger changes. In essence, mastering our habits is about mastering ourselves. It's about recognizing the immense power we have to shape our lives through the small choices we make each day. By understanding the mechanics of habit formation and leveraging principles like environmental design and the 2-minute rule, we can gradually reshape our behaviors and, by extension, our lives. This journey of self-improvement through habit formation is not about achieving perfection or adhering to a rigid set of rules. Rather, it's about creating systems that naturally guide us towards our goals. It's about making the right choices easier and the wrong choices harder. It's about harnessing the power of incremental progress to create lasting change. As we embark on this journey, it's important to approach it with patience and self-compassion. Changing ingrained habits takes time, and setbacks are a normal part of the process. The key is to focus on consistency rather than perfection, to celebrate small victories, and to view each day as a new opportunity to align our actions with our intentions. In conclusion, the study of habits offers you a powerful lens through which to view personal growth and behavior change. By understanding the outsized impact of small actions, the importance of decisive moments, and the power of environmental design, we can approach self-improvement in a more strategic and effective way. As we master our habits, we don't just change our behaviors, we change our lives. In the intricate tapestry of human behavior, our daily choices serve as the individual threads that, when woven together, create the fabric of our lives. Among these myriad decisions, certain moments stand out as particularly significant. These are what we might call decisive moments. These pivotal instances, often seemingly small and inconsequential, have the power to shape the course of our day and, by extension, our lives. Consider the simple act of walking into a restaurant. On the surface, it might appear to be a mundane decision, but in reality, it's a decisive moment that sets the stage for what follows. By choosing to enter a particular establishment, you've effectively determined the range of options available for your meal. If you step into a steakhouse, your choices are immediately constrained to what's on their menu. You can order a sirloin or a ribeye, but sushi is off the table. This principle extends far beyond food choices. It applies to virtually every aspect of our lives. These decisive moments are the junctures at which our habits exert their influence most powerfully. Our habitual behaviors lead us down certain paths, opening some doors while closing others. This is why developing an awareness of these critical points throughout our day is so crucial. Each day is composed of countless moments, but it's the habitual choices we make at these key junctures that ultimately determine the trajectory of our time and energy. Understanding this concept allows us to approach personal growth and habit formation from a more strategic perspective. Instead of trying to overhaul our entire lifestyle at once, a daunting task that often leads to frustration and failure, we can focus on identifying and optimizing these decisive moments. By doing so, we create a ripple effect that can lead to significant changes over time. However, even when we recognize the importance of starting small, it's all too easy to fall into the trap of trying to do too much too soon. The excitement of potential change can be intoxicating, leading us to set unrealistic goals or attempt to make sweeping changes overnight. This is where the 2-minute rule comes into play, a powerful strategy for making habits stick. The 2-minute rule posits that when you're trying to establish a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. This might seem counterintuitive at first. After all, how can you achieve significant change in just 2 minutes? But the beauty of this rule lies in its simplicity and its focus on getting started. Almost any habit can be distilled down to a 2-minute version. Want to read more? Start with reading just 1 page before bed. Aiming to exercise regularly? Begin by simply putting on your workout clothes. Hoping to improve your diet? Start by adding 1 vegetable to your plate at dinner. The key is to make the initial action so easy that it's almost impossible to say no to it. This approach is powerful for several reasons. Firstly, it removes the intimidation factor that often comes with trying to establish new habits. Reading an entire book might seem daunting, but reading a single page is manageable for anyone. Secondly, it leverages the principle of momentum. Once you've started an activity, it's much easier to continue. You might sit down intending to read just 1 page, only to find yourself engrossed in the book an hour later. The 2-minute rule isn't about limiting yourself to only 2 minutes of an activity. Rather, it's about creating what we might call a gateway habit, a small, easy action that naturally leads you down a more productive path. It's about mastering the art of showing up consistently, which is the foundation of any lasting habit. This concept aligns with the idea that habits must be established before they can be improved. Many people make the mistake of trying to optimize a habit before it's even become a regular part of their routine. But if you can't consistently show up, you have little hope of mastering the finer details. The 2-minute rule allows you to focus on the most critical aspect of habit formation: consistency. As you become more consistent with your 2-minute habit, it begins to serve as a ritual that signals the beginning of a larger routine. This ritualization is actually an ideal way to approach mastering difficult skills. By standardizing the beginning of a process, you make it easier to slip into a state of deep focus. Athletes often have specific warm-up routines that help them get into the right mindset for peak performance. Writers might have a particular ritual they follow before sitting down to work. These routines serve as triggers that tell your brain it's time to focus on the task at hand. Some might view the 2-minute rule as a psychological trick, and in a sense it is. You know that your ultimate goal is to do more than just 2 minutes of an activity. But this trick is based on sound psychological principles. It's about making the barrier to entry so low that you can't help but take action. And once you've taken that first step, you've already overcome the hardest part: getting started. If the idea of tricking yourself doesn't sit well with you, try this variation: do the activity for 2 minutes and then stop, even if you want to continue. Go for a run, but stop after 2 minutes. Start meditating, but stop after 2 minutes. Study a new language, but stop after 2 minutes. This approach can be particularly effective because it leaves you wanting more, which increases the likelihood that you'll return to the activity the next day. This strategy has proven effective for many people across various goals. One individual used it to lose over 100 pounds. He started by going to the gym each day, but limiting himself to just 5 minutes. After a few weeks, he naturally began to extend his workouts. The key was that he had established the habit of going to the gym consistently before trying to do lengthy workouts. Journaling provides another excellent example of the power of this approach. Many people avoid journaling or give up quickly because it feels like a chore. But by committing to write for just 2 minutes a day, or to write less than you feel like writing, you can build a consistent habit without it ever feeling burdensome. This principle of stopping before it feels like work can be applied to virtually any habit you're trying to establish. The 2-minute rule and similar strategies are effective for another crucial reason: they reinforce the identity you want to build. Every time you show up to do your 2-minute habit, you're casting a vote for your new identity. If you go to the gym for 5 days in a row, even if it's just for 2 minutes each time, you're reinforcing your identity as someone who doesn't miss workouts. You're not focused on getting in shape, the outcome; you're focused on becoming the type of person who exercises regularly, the identity. This shift in focus from outcomes to identity is a powerful one. It's easy to get consumed by end goals: losing weight, writing a book, learning a new skill. But by focusing on the smallest actions that confirm the type of person you want to be, you're laying the groundwork for lasting change. 1 push-up is better than not exercising at all. 1 minute of guitar practice is better than none. 1 page of reading is better than never picking up a book. As you consistently show up and your 2-minute habit becomes ingrained, you can begin to shape it towards your ultimate goal. This process, which we might call habit shaping, involves gradually scaling up your habit while still maintaining your focus on the crucial first 2 minutes. For example, if your goal is to become an early riser, you might start by simply being home by 10 p.m. every night. Once that becomes easy, you move to having all devices turned off by 10 p.m. The next step might be being in bed by 10 p.m., then lights off by 10 p.m., and finally waking up at 6 a.m. each day. At each day, you're focusing on mastering just the first 2 minutes of the behavior before moving on to the next level. This gradual approach can be applied to any habit you're trying to build. If you want to become vegan, you might start by adding vegetables to each meal, then progressively eliminating different types of animal products from your diet. If you're aiming to establish an exercise routine, you begin with simply changing into workout clothes, then stepping out the door for a walk, and gradually building up to regular gym sessions. The beauty of this approach lies in its flexibility and its respect for the gradual nature of true behavior change. It recognizes that lasting habits are built slowly and consistently, not through Herculean efforts that burn you out quickly. It allows you to celebrate small victories along the way, reinforcing your motivation and your new identity. Moreover, this strategy aligns with our understanding of how the brain forms habits. Neuroscience tells us that habits are formed through repetition, as neural pathways are strengthened through consistent use. By focusing on small, manageable actions that you can repeat daily, you're effectively training your brain to associate certain cues with certain behaviors. It's worth noting that this approach to habit formation doesn't just apply to personal habits; it can be equally effective in professional settings or when trying to implement changes in organizations. Too often, companies try to implement sweeping changes all at once, leading to resistance and failed initiatives. By breaking down large changes into smaller, more manageable steps, organizations can more effectively guide their employees towards new ways of working. As you embark on your journey of habit formation, it's crucial to maintain a perspective of patience and self-compassion. Change takes time, and setbacks are a normal part of the process. The goal isn't perfection, but progress. Every time you show up for your 2-minute habit, you're moving in the right direction, regardless of what happens afterwards. Remember, too, that the habits you're working to establish are not the end goal in themselves. They are the entry point, the first step on a longer journey. Just as hailing a cab was the crucial first step in Twyla Tharp's morning routine, your 2-minute habit is the gateway to larger changes and growth. In conclusion, the path to lasting change lies not in grand gestures or heroic efforts, but in the small, consistent actions we take each day. By understanding the power of decisive moments, leveraging the 2-minute rule, and focusing on identity-based habits, we can create meaningful change in our lives. It's about making the right behaviors easy, focusing on consistency over intensity, and trusting in the compounding effect of small actions over time. As you move forward, challenge yourself to identify the decisive moments in your day. Where are the points at which a small choice could lead you down a more positive path? Then, apply the 2-minute rule to create gateway habits that align with your goals. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, or in this case, a single 2-minute action. By mastering the art of showing up, you set the stage for transformative change and growth. Your future self will thank you for the small, consistent efforts you make today. In the realm of personal development and habit formation, we often focus on strategies to make positive behaviors easier to adopt. However, an equally powerful approach is to make undesirable habits more difficult to maintain. This principle is beautifully illustrated by the story of Victor Hugo and his novel, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. In 1830, Hugo found himself in a predicament familiar to many creatives. He had promised his publisher a new book, but had spent the year procrastinating. Faced with an imminent deadline, Hugo devised an ingenious, if unconventional, solution. He gathered all his clothes and had them locked away, leaving himself with nothing but a large shawl to wear. Unable to leave his study without proper attire, Hugo had no choice but to focus on his writing. The result: The Hunchback of Notre Dame was completed ahead of schedule. This anecdote exemplifies what psychologists call a commitment device, a choice made in the present that controls future actions. By removing the option to engage in other activities, Hugo created an environment where writing was the path of least resistance. This strategy inverts the common advice to make good habits easier. Instead, it focuses on making bad habits harder. Commitment devices can take many forms, each tailored to address specific challenges. For those struggling with overeating, purchasing food in individual portions rather than bulk sizes can serve as a natural limit on consumption. Gamblers might voluntarily add themselves to casino ban lists to prevent future indulgences. Athletes needing to maintain a certain weight for competition might leave their wallets at home to avoid the temptation of fast food. These strategies work by leveraging our good intentions before we can fall victim to temptation. They recognize that willpower is a finite resource and that the environment often plays a more significant role in our behavior than sheer determination. By altering our environment or creating obstacles to undesired behaviors, we can guide ourselves towards better choices without relying solely on willpower. The key to effective commitment devices is to make the effort required to break a good habit or engage in a bad one greater than the effort to maintain the desired behavior. For instance, if you're trying to establish a fitness routine, you might schedule and pay for classes in advance. The financial commitment and the social expectation of attendance create a situation where following through requires less effort than canceling. While commitment devices are powerful tools for behavior change, we can push this concept even further. Instead of just making bad habits difficult, we can strive to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. This approach is exemplified by the story of John Henry Patterson and the invention of the cash register. In the mid-1800s, Patterson owned a small supply store that was struggling due to employee theft. At the time, this was a common problem with no easy solution. However, Patterson's fortunes changed when he discovered Ritty's incorruptible cashier, the first cash register. By automatically locking away cash and receipts after each transaction, the machine made theft practically impossible. The results were immediate and dramatic. Patterson's business went from losing money to turning a significant profit within 6 months. The brilliance of the cash register lay in its ability to automate ethical behavior. Rather than trying to change the employee's mindset or increase surveillance, it simply removed the option to steal. This principle can be applied to various aspects of our lives. By creating systems that make preferred behaviors automatic and undesired behaviors impractical, we can effect lasting change with minimal ongoing effort. This concept of one-time actions that pay dividends over time is particularly intriguing. These are choices that require some initial effort, but create increasing value as time passes. For example, installing a water filter can lead to long-term improvements in health and reduced plastic waste. Buying a quality mattress can enhance sleep quality for years to come. Unsubscribing from unnecessary emails can permanently reduce daily distractions. The power of these one-time actions lies in their ability to shape our environment and, by extension, our behavior without requiring constant conscious effort. They embody the principle of making good habits easier and bad habits harder on a long-term scale. By thoughtfully modifying our surroundings and systems, we can create an environment that naturally guides us towards better choices. Consider the impact of seemingly small changes like using smaller plates to reduce caloric intake or removing the TV from the bedroom to improve sleep habits. These simple actions can have profound effects on our health and well-being over time. Similarly, financial habits can be dramatically improved through one-time actions like setting up automatic savings plans or bill payments. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity and accessibility. While not everyone may have the willpower to consistently make healthy choices or stick to a budget, most people can manage a one-time action that sets up a more supportive environment. This democratizes the process of habit formation, making it attainable for a wider range of individuals. Moreover, these strategies often have compounding effects. For instance, improving sleep quality through better bedding and a TV-free bedroom can lead to increased energy and productivity during the day. This, in turn, might make it easier to maintain a regular exercise routine or make healthier food choices. Similarly, automating finances can reduce stress and free up mental energy for other pursuits. It's important to note that while these strategies can be highly effective, they're not a panacea. Personal growth and habit formation still require effort and commitment. However, by focusing on creating an environment that supports our goals, we can significantly reduce the amount of willpower required to maintain positive habits. This approach also aligns well with our understanding of human psychology. We are profoundly influenced by our environment, often more than we realize. By consciously shaping that environment, we can harness this influence for our benefit. It's a way of working with our natural tendencies rather than constantly fighting against them. Furthermore, this strategy of environmental design can be applied at various scales. Individuals can use it to improve personal habits, but it can also be implemented at organizational or societal levels. For example, companies might redesign office spaces to encourage more movement or collaboration. Cities could modify urban planning to promote walking and cycling over driving. As we consider implementing these strategies in our own lives, it's worth taking time to reflect on our specific challenges and goals. What are the habits we're struggling to form or break? What aspects of our environment might be hindering our progress? By identifying these pain points, we can more effectively target our interventions. It's also valuable to think creatively about potential solutions. While some commitment devices or environmental changes might be obvious, others might require more innovative thinking. The goal is to find solutions that work for our individual circumstances and preferences. Additionally, it's crucial to approach this process with patience and self-compassion. Habit change is rarely a linear process, and setbacks are normal. The advantage of focusing on environmental changes is that they continue to exert their influence, even when our motivation wavers. In conclusion, while traditional advice on habit formation often focuses on willpower and motivation, there's immense power in shaping our environment to support our goals. By creating commitment devices, automating good behaviors, and making one-time changes that yield long-term benefits, we can significantly increase our chances of success. This approach recognizes that sustainable change often comes not from Herculean efforts of will, but from thoughtful adjustments to our surroundings and systems. It's about creating an environment where good habits are the path of least resistance, and bad habits require conscious effort to maintain. As we move forward in our personal growth journeys, let's consider how we can leverage these principles. What commitment devices might help us overcome our specific challenges? What one-time actions could we take to set ourselves up for long-term success? By answering these questions and taking action, we can create lasting change with less ongoing effort, freeing up our mental energy to focus on what truly matters in our lives. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, but progress. Every step we take to align our environment with our aspirations is a step towards becoming the person we want to be. By making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible, we're not just changing our behaviors, we're reshaping our lives. In the realm of personal development and habit formation, we often focus on strategies to make positive behaviors easier to adopt. However, an equally powerful approach is to make undesirable habits more difficult to maintain. This principle is beautifully illustrated by the story of Victor Hugo and his novel, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. In 1830, Hugo found himself in a predicament familiar to many creatives. He had promised his publisher a new book but had spent the year procrastinating. Faced with an imminent deadline, Hugo devised an ingenious, if unconventional, solution. He gathered all his clothes and had them locked away, leaving himself with nothing but a large shawl to wear. Unable to leave his study without proper attire, Hugo had no choice but to focus on his writing. The result? The Hunchback of Notre Dame was completed ahead of schedule. This anecdote exemplifies what psychologists call a commitment device, a choice made in the present that controls future actions. By removing the option to engage in other activities, Hugo created an environment where writing was the path of least resistance. This strategy inverts the common advice to make good habits easier. Instead, it focuses on making bad habits harder. Commitment devices can take many forms, each tailored to address specific challenges. For those struggling with overeating, purchasing food in individual portions rather than bulk sizes can serve as a natural limit on consumption. Gamblers might voluntarily add themselves to casino ban lists to prevent future indulgences. Athletes needing to maintain a certain weight for competition might leave their wallets at home to avoid the temptation of fast food. These strategies work by leveraging our good intentions before we can fall victim to temptation. They recognize that willpower is a finite resource and that the environment often plays a more significant role in our behavior than sheer determination. By altering our environment or creating obstacles to undesired behaviors, we can guide ourselves towards better choices without relying solely on willpower. The key to effective commitment devices is to make the effort required to break a good habit or engage in a bad one greater than the effort to maintain the desired behavior. For instance, if you're trying to establish a fitness routine, you might schedule and pay for classes in advance. The financial commitment and the social expectation of attendance create a situation where following through requires less effort than canceling. While commitment devices are powerful tools for behavior change, we can push this concept even further. Instead of just making bad habits difficult, we can strive to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. This approach is exemplified by the story of John Henry Patterson and the invention of the cash register. In the mid-1800s, Patterson owned a small supply store that was struggling due to employee theft. At the time, this was a common problem with no easy solution. However, Patterson's fortunes changed when he discovered Ritty's incorruptible cashier, the first cash register. By automatically locking away cash and receipts after each transaction, the machine made theft practically impossible. The results were immediate and dramatic. Patterson's business went from losing money to turning a significant profit within 6 months. The brilliance of the cash register lay in its ability to automate ethical behavior. Rather than trying to change the employee's mindset or increase surveillance, it simply removed the option to steal. This principle can be applied to various aspects of our lives. By creating systems that make preferred behaviors automatic and undesired behaviors impractical, we can effect lasting change with minimal ongoing effort. This concept of one-time actions that pay dividends over time is particularly intriguing. These are choices that require some initial effort but create increasing value as time passes. For example, installing a water filter can lead to long-term improvements in health and reduced plastic waste. Buying a quality mattress can enhance sleep quality for years to come. Unsubscribing from unnecessary emails can permanently reduce daily distractions. The power of these one-time actions lies in their ability to shape our environment and, by extension, our behavior without requiring constant conscious effort. They embody the principle of making good habits easier and bad habits harder on a long-term scale. By thoughtfully modifying our surroundings and systems, we can create an environment that naturally guides us towards better choices. Consider the impact of seemingly small changes like using smaller plates to reduce caloric intake or removing the TV from the bedroom to improve sleep habits. These simple actions can have profound effects on our health and well-being over time. Similarly, financial habits can be dramatically improved through one-time actions like setting up automatic savings plans or bill payments. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity and accessibility. While not everyone may have the willpower to consistently make healthy choices or stick to a budget, most people can manage a one-time action that sets up a more supportive environment. This democratizes the process of habit formation, making it attainable for a wider range of individuals. Moreover, these strategies often have compounding effects. For instance, improving sleep quality through better bedding and a TV-free bedroom can lead to increased energy and productivity during the day. This, in turn, might make it easier to maintain a regular exercise routine or make healthier food choices. Similarly, automating finances can reduce stress and free up mental energy for other pursuits. It's important to note that while these strategies can be highly effective, they're not a panacea. Personal growth and habit formation still require effort and commitment. However, by focusing on creating an environment that supports our goals, we can significantly reduce the amount of willpower required to maintain positive habits. This approach also aligns well with our understanding of human psychology. We are profoundly influenced by our environment, often more than we realize. By consciously shaping that environment, we can harness this influence for our benefit. It's a way of working with our natural tendencies rather than constantly fighting against them. Furthermore, this strategy of environmental design can be applied at various scales. Individuals can use it to improve personal habits, but it can also be implemented at organizational or societal levels. For example, companies might redesign office spaces to encourage more movement or collaboration. Cities could modify urban planning to promote walking and cycling over driving. As we consider implementing these strategies in our own lives, it's worth taking time to reflect on our specific challenges and goals. What are the habits we're struggling to form or break? What aspects of our environment might be hindering our progress? By identifying these pain points, we can more effectively target our interventions. It's also valuable to think creatively about potential solutions. While some commitment devices or environmental changes might be obvious, others might require more innovative thinking. The goal is to find solutions that work for our individual circumstances and preferences. Additionally, it's crucial to approach this process with patience and self-compassion. Habit change is rarely a linear process, and setbacks are normal. The advantage of focusing on environmental changes is that they continue to exert their influence even when our motivation wavers. In conclusion, while traditional advice on habit formation often focuses on willpower and motivation, there's immense power in shaping our environment to support our goals. By creating commitment devices, automating good behaviors, and making one-time changes that yield long-term benefits, we can significantly increase our chances of success. This approach recognizes that sustainable change often comes not from Herculean efforts of will, but from thoughtful adjustments to our surroundings and systems. It's about creating an environment where good habits are the path of least resistance and bad habits require conscious effort to maintain. As we move forward in our personal growth journeys, let's consider how we can leverage these principles. What commitment devices might help us overcome our specific challenges? What one-time actions could we take to set ourselves up for long-term success? By answering these questions and taking action, we can create lasting change with less ongoing effort, freeing up our mental energy to focus on what truly matters in our lives. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, but progress. Every step we take to align our environment with our aspirations is a step towards becoming the person we want to be. By making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible, we're not just changing our behaviors, we're reshaping our lives. In the bustling streets of a Pakistani neighborhood, where unsanitary conditions once led to widespread illness and disease, a remarkable transformation took place. This change wasn't brought about by advanced medical treatments or cutting-edge technology, but by something as simple as soap and the habit of hand-washing. The story begins with contaminated water sources causing epidemics of diarrhea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. In this densely populated area, nearly one-third of the children were malnourished, and the close quarters allowed viruses and bacterial infections to spread like wildfire. It was this dire public health crisis that brought researcher Stephen Luby and his team to Pakistan. Upon arrival, Luby and his colleagues quickly realized that in such an environment with poor sanitation, the simple act of washing one's hands could make a significant difference in the health of the residents. However, they soon discovered a surprising fact: many people were already aware that hand washing was important. This revelation highlights a crucial point about human behavior. Knowledge alone is often not enough to change habits or improve outcomes. The residents understood the importance of hand washing, but their practices were inconsistent and haphazard. Some would merely run their hands under water quickly, others would wash only one hand, and many would simply forget to wash their hands before preparing food. The problem wasn't a lack of information, it was a lack of consistency. This scenario is not unique to hand washing or to this particular community. We often see similar patterns in various aspects of our lives. We know we should exercise regularly, eat a balanced diet, or save money for the future.